right. So these are some of the pieces that we talked about in my art portfolio. This is
And you
the
said this is
acrylic.
Cinderella?
Yeah, it's
scene?
like a take on Cinderella scene. And what I'm going to use this one for is to show an example of a little bit of value in this one, but mainly composition is what we're going to be talking about in this one. So I turned the piece to black and white. This is an easy way of checking if the values are working. And when we talked about composition in the podcast, we talked about that you have different elements to create focal point. Yeah. So in this one, we were going to discuss composition. So I'm bringing this. Let me make sure I have the right layer and that I have a bright color and a pen. Okay. So in this one, we're going to discuss composition. I made already some notations here, but I guess I could just do it from scratch. Let's start again. So what works in this composition is using direction. So you see this chair. Let me go a little thinner here. It's creating some lines for you. It's directing the eye already towards the main character, which is here, the main action. The focal point is that. And if you follow, note that it's not so much a conscious thing, but it kind of becomes instinctively as you're doing it. So these lines that are going down are keeping your eye from floating away. It's a direction. There is a pattern. It's a rhythm, like you were saying in the other one, in the podcast. So you got 1, 2, 3 going down this way. And you have these strong diagonals. When you have a strong line, your eye naturally follows it and it wants to see what's at the end of it. So what's at the end of it is the main character. Another thing that is helping this composition work is this section here. So the values here are all very similar. If you were to really, and this is a copy of a copy. So here we have the original, well, a copy of a copy and a print and a picture. So it's very blurry now, but you can see that you can still see the little individual pots and pans, but they're all falling within the same value. So if you were to squint, this all becomes one thing, one dark shadow. That's what's happening here. So you have one dark shadow here that is keeping you inside of the painting. It's not letting your eye go outside. It's stopping you right here in this line, right here.
Yeah, so
that's everything
is stopping your eyes from
wandering off. Exactly. Yeah. I'm trying to not to. Same thing here. This section here. If you squint or you see it from far, it should look like one solid. But when you see it close, you can clearly see there's a kitchen, there's something at the stove. So that would be like a secondary read. These things here are secondary reads. You see them after, but they're not so noticeable that you see them right away. So that's what helps the composition. And this thing here, you hardly see it. You see that? It's almost the same.
Is it something on the table?
It's just more, it's on the table. And it's hard to see it in black and white because it is the same value as the floor. So you see how it disappears in the black and white?
Yeah.
But it's a shape that pushes you in. It keeps that boundary from you going off to the right. But it's the same value because I don't want to attract attention to it. I don't. You see how it just says.
Yeah. But if you had made it darker, like you did the left corner, would it have made it too closed in?
It would have made it feel claustrophobic. See, if this would have been a dark shape, it could be done, but it kind of feels a little more claustrophobic. It just needed a little bit of breathing room. So that's why I didn't go with it. But there's many different choices that you can make. And
I also
Go ahead. No.
I also kind of feel like it creates a little bit of repetition between your glow in the middle, and then you have that rounded curve down on the right side, and then you also have more rounded reflection curve in the window.
That's when you start seeing patterns. That's when you start. Remember when we talked about in the podcast how I don't know why this is so thick, that your eye naturally goes to patterns.
Yeah.
Another thing we talked about, and I don't know if we talked about it in the podcast, the brain is kind of wired to see faces and to communicate with faces. So when you have
no,
a
we didn't.
character, we didn't.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a character that is looking at someone else, you will instinctively look at what that person is looking at. You want to follow it. And not just a person, but this is hard to see in this copy, but you see the dog in the corner?
His one eye.
He's looking, and he's looking at what's happening. So if you happen to wander off into the, once you saw this, let me see if I can get a clean layer here. Once you see what's happening here, you start going, oh, I can go this way. Oopsie, sorry. Oh, I can't go here. So, well, I'm bouncing here. Oh, I'm bouncing here. Say you go here and you end up there. You go, wait, what is he looking at? Yeah. And he takes you back
to that's true. Yeah.
To the main action. But when you're doing this, you're not actually like instinctively doing this. Oh, I'm going to take him back. It just, I should say you're kind of instinctively doing it after a while, after you have done it for a bit. And there's still things that you could fix. Like this is an old piece, so I know that the perspective here is, oh goodness, I'm sorry. Let me see, open a new one. Like I can see the perspective here is wrong. You see how that window's off perspective a little bit? Those little things, if I were to do this again, I would fix it. I would make it better. But I'm not going to redraw any of this. This is an old piece. I won't use it anymore.